When it was all over, the three of us sat in silence. The atmosphere in the cockpit was so still, only the sound of the plane's engines could be heard. I tried to compose myself, realizing this secret was growing deeper and harder to end. In my heart, I knew I had to make a choice soon. But for now, I could only go with the current, trying to survive in this increasingly complicated and passionate relationship. The crazier game. What was once a small secret between Adrian and me had now turned into something far beyond my control. Adrian and Pakadi, as if realizing they had complete power over me, started working together in a way I'd never imagined. On every flight, they looked like a tight team, not just in flying the plane, but also in making sure I was fully under their control. If before I only attended to them one by one, now both of them started to collaborate, creating a game that grew more intense by the day. On one night flight, when all passengers were asleep and the plane was quiet, they called me to the cockpit. As soon as I entered, the door was locked, and I immediately knew they had planned something. "Lala," Adrian said, pulling my hand, "tonight we want to make sure you're truly ours." Pakadi added in a calm yet teasing tone, "We'll work together to wear you out, sweetheart. Are you ready?" I could only nod. My body was too used to this situation, even though my heart was still filled with a mix of guilt and unavoidable desire. They took turns, playing their parts perfectly. Adrian, though less experienced than Pakadi, tried to copy the more dominant movements and style. Meanwhile, Pakadi stuck to his mature touch, guiding Adrian while taking over every so often. I lost all control completely. My body could only surrender to the rhythm they set. My moans grew louder, mixing with their soft laughter as they looked pleased to see me so helpless before them. "Adrian, look at this," Pakadi said, holding my hand and guiding it. "You have to learn how to make Lala truly enjoy it. Don't rush." Adrian nodded, trying to adjust his movements. I could only close my eyes, enjoying it, while also feeling strange about the situation. That night, they left me completely worn out. When the flight ended and we arrived at the hotel, my body felt so weak, as if all my energy had been drained. Yet in the middle of that exhaustion, there was something that kept me tied to them, whether it was fear or perhaps an unexplainable desire. I knew the situation wouldn't last forever. There was a line we would cross eventually, and when that happened, I wasn't sure if I was ready to face the consequences. But for now, I could only give in to their game, letting myself get lost in this dark secret that was harder and harder to stop. A new chapter with Rian. My complicated secret life grew more full of surprises. All this time, I thought it was only Adrian and Pakadi who were part of the crazy world I'd unknowingly built. But Rian, a male flight attendant who had seemed to only hide his feelings for me, had actually been watching everything that happened. That night flight felt so long. After finishing with Adrian and Pakadi in the cockpit, I tried to fix myself up, but when I walked towards the cabin area to make sure everything was in order, Rian came up to me. He held my hand gently, but tightly. His gaze was full of meaning, as if he knew everything. "Lala," he whispered, "come with me for a minute." I didn't have time to say no. He pulled me towards the toilet at the back of the plane, a place usually used by the crew for short breaks. My heart pounded fast, my feelings a mix of fear, confusion, and curiosity. After making sure the door was locked, Rian stared at me deeply. "I know everything," he said in a soft yet firm tone. I fell silent. His words stung, making me feel as if all the secrets I'd kept were now exposed. "What do you mean, everything?" I asked, trying to sound calm, even though my voice was shaking. Rian smiled faintly. "Do you think I don't know what you do with Adrian and Pakadi? I see the way you walk out of the cockpit. I heard your moans earlier." I wanted to deny it, but it was useless. Everything he said was true. I could only bow my head, feeling embarrassed and helpless. "I like you, Lala," he continued. "It's been a long time. But seeing you choose both of them, it hurts. If you can do it with them, why not with me? His words made me even more confused. I knew this was wrong, but the situation felt so complicated. Rian, it's not that simple, I whispered, trying to explain, but Rian didn't give me a chance. He pulled me near, holding my hand tighter. I don't ask for much, Lala. I just want a little of what they get. Think of it as our little secret. Even though my heart was full of guilt, my body seemed unable to resist. I could only obey when he brought his face close, whispering sweet words that made me lose my bearings even more. That night, I did the same thing with Rian. My feelings were more tangled than ever, between guilt, fear, and the inability to control myself. When it was over, Rian stared at me with a satisfied smile. You won't regret this, Lala. I'll keep this secret. I only nodded weakly, realizing my life was now more complicated. My secret that once involved 2 people had now grown to 3. I didn't know how much longer I could survive this, but one thing was certain. I was growing more trapped in the maze I'd built myself. The heavier secret. My life as a flight attendant was no longer just about serving passengers with a professional smile. Every flight became an increasingly intense secret routine with Adrian, Pakadi, and now Rian. What once felt like an adventure had now turned into a burden that was harder and harder to carry. I started to feel changes in myself, not just emotionally, but physically too. My uniform was now different from the others, as if the 3 of them indirectly wanted me to stand out more. On their suggestion, I wore a tighter flight attendant uniform with a shorter skirt that showed off my curvy hips. My top was also more open, highlighting my full chest and making me the center of attention on every flight. Every time I walked down the cabin aisle, I could feel passengers' eyes fixed on me. There was shame, but also a strange thrill that made me enjoy the attention a little. But I knew that beneath that professional look, there was a dark secret I carried with the 3 men in the cockpit. Our routine with them was now more structured. Adrian, Pakadi, and Rian seemed to have an unwritten agreement about how they would take turns with me during flights. In the toilet, the crew rest area, or even in the cockpit if possible, they always found a way to involve me in this game. I, on the other hand, felt like a doll controlled by their wishes. My body responded in a way I couldn't explain, even though in my heart I knew it was wrong. But the fear of losing my job, love, and that strange sense of satisfaction kept me going. This uniform suits you, Lala, Pakadi said when I entered the cockpit. He stared at me from head to toe with a satisfied smile. You were made to attract attention. Rian, sitting in the crew seat behind, added, I agree. You're the main attraction of this airline now. Adrian only looked at me with a blend of love and jealousy. Lala, you belong to the 3 of us. Never even think about leaving us. Even though I smiled and agreed, a growing sense of guilt gnawed at my heart. I knew this relationship wouldn't last long without trouble. The deeper I fell into it, the more I lost control of myself. Every flight was a new struggle. I had to keep my professionalism in front of passengers while satisfying the 3 men who had become part of my secret. Yet, I knew that one day this would all end, either well or otherwise. But for now, I could only keep going, following the path they had created for me. Clarissa's temptation plan. My days were now filled with courage and confidence I'd never had before. All the tiredness, guilt, and awkwardness had faded, replaced with a pleasure that strangely made me enjoy this situation more and more. I became bolder, more sensual, and more aware of how to use my allure. This made me the center of attention, not just with passengers, but among the other crew. One of the most noticeable was Clarissa, a fellow flight attendant who always seemed to watch me with eyes full of envy. I knew she didn't like me, maybe because of the attention I got from passengers, or because I looked different in my more revealing uniform and curvier figure. Yet the more Clarissa showed her dislike, the more I wanted to draw her into the secret game that had become part of my life. One night, after a short discussion with Adrian, Mr. Oddie, and Rian, I shared my plan. "What if we ask Clarissa to join us?" I asked, giving a seductive smile. Adrian raised an eyebrow, a little shocked. "Clarissa? The one who's always so cynical toward you?" Mr. Oddie let out a soft laugh. "Interesting. If that's what you want, Lala, we can try." Rian, who was usually more reserved, spoke up too. "I agree. She's attractive, but I'm sure she'll be hard to convince." I only smiled, certain I could persuade Clarissa. First steps. The chance came on the next flight. When Clarissa looked like she was resting in the back, I approached her with a warm smile. "Clarissa, you look tired. Why don't you rest for a bit?" I asked. She looked at me with an unreadable gaze. "I'm not tired, really. I'm just wondering how you can always look so fresh and attention-grabbing." I let out a small laugh. "Maybe because I enjoy my job, you know? When we enjoy something, everything feels lighter." Clarissa only grumbled, but I knew there was an opening I could use. Executing the plan. After the flight ended, I approached her again. "Clarissa, I have a little secret. If you want, I can share it, but you have to promise not to tell anyone." She looked at me doubtfully. "What secret?" I smiled mysteriously. "Come with me to the hotel tonight. I'll show you something you've never imagined." Even though she was hesitant at first, Clarissa's curiosity finally won out. That night, I took her to the room Adrian, Mr. Oddie, and Rian had prepared. When Clarissa walked in, she looked surprised to see the three of them there. "What is this, Lala?" she asked, her tone full of suspicion. I approached her, caressing her shoulder lightly. "Calm down, Clarissa. I just want you to know the secret behind the pleasure I've been feeling." Adrian, Mr. Oddie, and Rian began to approach us slowly. Clarissa looked nervous, but I could see she was also curious. In a soft voice, I whispered in her ear, "Trust me, you'll enjoy this. Just let them lead the way." Clarissa, though hesitant at first, finally began to give in to the atmosphere we had created. That night, we managed to draw her into our secret game, opening a new, more complicated but passionate chapter in my life. Now my routine no longer involved just three men. Clarissa's presence added a new color to our relationship, and somehow I felt more and more enjoying my new role in this game. Helpless Clarissa. That night, what had started as an exciting challenge turned into something unforeseen. When Clarissa, who had always seemed sassy and confident, walked into the room where Adrian, Mr. Oddie, and Rian were waiting, her expression changed instantly. I could see fear in her eyes even though she tried to hide it. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice trembling, though she tried to sound tough. Yet the room's atmosphere made it impossible for her to pretend any longer. Adrian's sharp gaze, Mr. Oddie's small, meaningful smile, and Rian's slow approach made Clarissa look panicked. Rian, who was usually calm, moved quickly. He took Clarissa's hand with a soft pull, trying to calm her as he said, "It's okay, Clarissa. We just want to get to know you better. You'll like it, I'm sure." But Clarissa looked even more nervous. "I don't want this. This is wrong," she said, her tone full of terror. I could only stand in the corner of the room watching everything happen. A slow sense of guilt crept into my heart, but I stayed silent. Rian, who didn't want to lose control, began to push the issue. In a more forceful but still gentle tone, he said, "Clarissa, trust us, we won't hurt you, but if you keep fighting, it'll only make things harder." Tears began to stream down Clarissa's cheeks. She looked defeated, her body shaking as Rian held her hand tighter. Adrian and Mr. Oddie stayed silent, only watching as they waited for the next move. In my heart, I felt this had gone too far. I wanted to stop it, but somehow I let it keep going. surrendering, tears still falling. That night, Clarissa gave in to the situation. Even though her tears kept flowing, she no longer fought back. I could only hope that time would make her accept what had happened, just like I had. But I knew that night would be a difficult start for her, a secret she might never be able to forget. Dark, heavy, filled with sorrow. Clarissa's cries in the black night. Clarissa stood shaking in the middle of the room, tears streaming down her face without stopping. Mr. Oddie, with steady steps and an authoritative gaze, began to approach her. "Clarissa, calm down. Everything will be okay," he said, in a soft but intimidating tone. His hand reached for Clarissa's shoulder, which was still shaking violently. "I'll make sure you enjoy this, just like Lala," he continued, glancing at me. I could only lower my head, feeling a mix of guilt and relief that I wasn't the focus that night. Yet, unlike me, who had slowly given in to the situation, Clarissa couldn't hold back her fear. Her sobs grew louder as Mr. Oddie began to take control. "Sir, please don't." Her voice was barely audible, drowned out by her weeping.